Okay. Well, I'm live, I think. Yeah, I am. Okay, sweet. So, right. Let's get into this tonight, boys. Got a few things to discuss here. Uh, so we'll get into it right away. If the audio at any point messes up, just let me know and I can fix it. But otherwise, we're going to make a start on everything's happened since the weekend's game because a lot of stuff has escalated quite quickly. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on in the last 24 hours or so. Um, so I'm going to grab all my screenshots, all the things I need in case I need to show you guys anything. And we can then make a start. So, first of all, welcome to the Cop Logic channel if you're watching this back on replay, or even if you're here with me now. Today, obviously, I'm going to be talking about the drama that's happened over the last 24 to 48 hours with regards to the issue with the refereeing and VAR system that was in place for the Spurs Liverpool game. A lot of stuff's happened over the last few hours that we should probably address. Things that I want to bring up, things that I want to clarify from my point of view, which I think most of the fans agree with. So I want to make sure, our voice and our message gets out properly and not misconstrued. So let's start with the first thing, which was that obviously we did a live stream after the game, while it was still hot, while it was still fresh in everyone's mind, when everyone was still justifiably fuming. And ultimately, the PGMOL came out with a statement shortly after the game to say there was a significant human error. We all know that. Basically saying, it was clarified afterwards, I didn't address this on stream, but you probably know by now that it was clarified that it was a human error in the fact that the VAR assistant, Darren England, assumed that the on-field decision was the goal, and he was just checking for an offside. Checked for an offside, and once he saw that it was onside, he check completed and allowed players to go on, not realising that the actual on-field decision was to disallow the goal because the lads put his flag up, which caused the confusion that basically he'd awarded the offside decision rather than the actual goal. We're going to explore how that can happen. We're going to explore what I think of it. We're going to explore what the feedback is after all that. And to start us off with, I don't know how that happens, for several reasons. First and foremost, because when it gets passed to VAR, I believe that on Monday Night Football they do a coverage of this and they always explain and show VAR conversations from a few games before or something along those lines. And essentially, when stuff gets passed to VAR, what happens is they pass it to VAR and clarify what the check is for. So even on, as you can see on the screen, when they're checking the goal, you can see in the top left-hand corner, the actual check is for a disallowed goal. So let me see if I can bring up the exact wording just to make sure I'm not misunderstanding anything. Because I want to make sure I'm fair and I'm getting your facts right, and everything is understandable and agree. I'm not trying to just kick up a fuss for no reason. So let's have a look. The phrase So I believe, okay, so I can't actually find it because there's that many posts in between when I've liked it. But I believe the phrase to check if a goal that has been allowed to stand was offside or not is VAR check, checking goal. Yeah. Oh, okay. So it says, I found it. So it says checking goal, possible offside. So that's if the goal has been allowed to stand by the on-field referees. The term that is used is checking goal, possible offside. Now, as you saw in our game, and as it should be, you should see. I can pull up pictures if needed, but it says ours, because we scored and the on-field decision made the call to disallow the goal because the linesman waved his flag. The terminology that was used in ours is checking disallowed goal for offside. So first and foremost, the referee, assistant, the VAR assistant, should have first off seen that terminology being used. He should have access to that terminology and check. This is so basically they've scored a goal, but they want to check if they've scored a goal. The linesman's put a flag up. We've disallowed it, but we need to check if it's actually a goal or not. Secondly, how hard is it to go to, Simon Hooper or the linesman or whoever's sent it through to VAR? What's this checking? Because they should always instigate what you're checking for. I don't know if it's the on-field ref that does that. I don't know if it's the VAR referee that does that. But basically, someone should clarify what we're checking for. I think that's probably why Liverpool have requested the audio for the VAR stuff. Even if that isn't correct, once he's made that decision to, check complete, so to speak, he should usually also clarify at the end of it what is the result. So basically, check complete, goal stands in his eyes, in his mind, because he thinks the goal has been allowed to stand in the first place. His finishing quote, I guess, should be checking goal, checks it, is all okay with it, and then decides check complete, goal stands. If it's the other way around and he's getting it mixed up or whatever, it should be goal not allowed, goal shouldn't stand, that kind of term. Even if that doesn't work, once you see the scoreboard doesn't change, and once you see Spurs line up to take the free kick as a result of the offside call, you should be able to instigate with Simon Hooper, the on-field ref, what's going on. That should have been a goal. And we think this may have happened, right? We think this may have happened because there's a clip online showing Simon Hooper looking towards the direction of where the ball is before it's being played, and he goes to put the whistle into his mouth as if first off, he looks like he's been told something beforehand, and he goes then to put the whistle into his mouth. I think Spurs then kick off from the free kick, and he just puts the whistle down. So it's theorised that at that moment he was being told, we've made a mistake, stop the play, we need to award the goal, maybe. For some reason, the rule is then once Spurs kick off, we're not allowed to stop play. God knows why, because VAR has then failed. You could argue it failed in the first place, but as long as it got the right call in the end, in my opinion, it wouldn't have failed. Even if the original check failed or there was a misunderstanding in the original check, as long as it went back and addressed it and corrected it, then it didn't fail, in my opinion, because that's what it's meant for. To correct errors. There was an error. It went to VAR to check the error. VAR checked the error and approved it, and then subsequently went back and fixed their own error. So then it's just never brought back up. Even if it's noticed way later on, I don't know why you can't stop play and have a debate, call over the captains, go to the managers, address the fact that VAR failed to pick up on this goal that should have been given and the on-field refs made the wrong call, and basically either subsequently award the goal or just address it to the teams, because you could even have a theory where basically Spurs would allow us to then go and score, similar to what I think it was Aston Villa Leeds did a few years ago. Now, it was a load of drama around it, and it probably would have been booed in the stadium, but ultimately it would have at least helped. They would have at least tried to make the correct decision after their 2 failures. So, I don't know why nothing could have been addressed at the time, but it wasn't, and it wasn't afterwards as well. Which led to basically us then having the goal chalked off when it shouldn't have been. So basically, the process of VAR not only failed, but failed on multiple fronts, because the significant human error that was made shouldn't have been allowed to be made. I mean, I said this a lot during the rant on Saturday after the game, but they're given every tool under the sun to make sure they make the right decision, and they're given every bit of time they need to make sure they have the right decision, and it still wasn't made. So basically, VAR has been undermined in one action, and something that annoys me that I'm going to talk about now is that I've seen loads of fans online. Now, first, the sympathy was outstanding. Like, a lot of clubs and fans empathised with us. And it was great to see, because ultimately, too many teams have been robbed by VAR and by the referees and the match officials this season. I mean, I'm pretty sure that at the stage now would have had more apologies than correct decisions. Apparently, it's now become a point tally game where rival fans will just pick at our argument and say, well, this happened to us, this happened to us, this happened against you, this happened for you. And they're basically going back and forth on all decisions that might have worked in our favour or might have worked against our favour or against their club's favour. And that's not really helpful. Like, just because it's happened in the past and just because we've not been as strong in our front against this as your club may have been, doesn't mean we shouldn't butt heads. Doesn't mean we should butt heads now. Like, every club, or at least most clubs, have been affected badly by VAR or the match officials at some point, and quite significantly so. And we shouldn't just be told to get on with it and deal with it, because what happens then? There's no progression, there's no learning, there's no improvement. And ultimately, everyone just ends up miserable every time there's a bad decision that goes against us. And sure, errors can happen in the game, but when they're as frequent as they are in the Premier League, and bear in mind this is one of the most successful, most revenue-generating leagues in the world. Well, it is the most. The frequency and simplicity of all these errors shouldn't be this frequent. So the only way you fix that is by challenging it. And previously, every club on board level didn't do that. They would just take the apology and move on. And I would even argue, by the way, that this example that's happened tonight or on Saturday is actually different than other examples as well. So where it's been, I mean, this is arguable, by the way. People might disagree with me here, but I would argue that it is different. And it is just an opinion. This is the first time it's been factually wrong, in my opinion. Like, VAR has had every tool presented to the VAR referee has had every tool presented to him to make sure he gets the right decision. He's been given all the information he needs. He's not took the time he needs. He's not checked. He's not used the tools he needs. He didn't draw the lines originally, and basically just checked to see if it was onside or offside. And it still ended up without a goal. And I just don't understand how. And when that's happened to other clubs in the past, so I used Wolves, Man United in my other live stream. When that's happened in the past, clubs have been apologised to, and they've just not had any retrospective action. The club has not then issued a statement like Liverpool did. That's not our fault. Like, I think it was a City fan on Twitter had commented in reply to a post, about, I think it was a Rashford goal, where I think it was last season. A pass was played through to Bruno Fernandes, but Rashford was offside and was somewhat interfering with the ball in being a presence before the ball, and I think it might have been a kanji. And then a goal was that Bruno Fernandes might, I think, scored that goal, and the complaint was that although Marcus Rashford didn't touch the ball, coming from an offside position and having a presence there affected the play, and I agreed with that. I agreed with that opinion at the time, and I still do agree with that opinion. I think Rashford. I think that goal should have been chalked off because Akanji would have been delayed in his arrival, knowing that Marcus Rashford was there, and even if he's offside, like Akanji can't just run through Rashford. Like the referee would have blown for a foul if that had happened, and maybe even give him a card. So even though Rashford was offside, you can't then just foul him. So we shouldn't be looking to point tally over each other. Like, we all have suffered the hands of the PGMOL and VAR and the match officials in some way or another at some point. Just because we're the ones that are taking action doesn't mean that we're scummier or we're, saltier or whatever. Like, your club should have done the same. And if change does come from this, which I will admit I'm very doubtful will happen, but if change does come from it, like, you all need to apologise. I mean, if you want to complain at us for taking it to them and potentially getting change and getting the change, you then owe us an apology. Simple as. We can't help that your club didn't take action for you. Ours have, because in my opinion, this is a different kind of error than normal. But speaking of that action, I probably should address, Liverpool did issue a statement because they didn't clarify this on the stream the other day because it came out subsequently. But Liverpool issued what is, in my opinion, a very, very clear-cut, straightforward, strong message in response, which I will read out for you now, just in case you want reminding. This came out Sunday night, so this was relatively recent in the grand scheme of things. So let me just read this out for you now. So, Liverpool Football Club acknowledges the PGMOL's admission of their failures last night. It is clear that the correct application of the laws of the game did not occur, resulting in sporting integrity to be being undermined. We fully accept the pressures that the match officials work under, but these pressures are supposed to be alleviated, not exasperated, by the existence of implementation of VAR. It is therefore unsatisfactory that sufficient time was not afforded to allow the correct decision to be made, and that there was no subsequent intervention. That such failings have already been categorised as a significant human error is also unacceptable. Any and all outcomes should be established only by the review and with full transparency. This is vital for the reliability of future decision making, as it applies to all clubs, with learnings being used to make improvements to processes in order to ensure this kind of situation cannot occur again. In the meantime, we will explore the range of options available, given the clear need for escalation and resolution. Now, that's where a lot of the sympathy changed for us when Liverpool came out with that statement, and I don't know why. A lot of people had already started to flip-flop. Gary Neville massively U-turned on his stance the day after. It's basically saying that sorry is enough. When I would love, right, for the Glazers to come out and just say sorry, because by Gary's definition, that's enough. So if you make the same mistake over and over again, it doesn't matter how many times you make the mistake. If you say sorry, that's enough. So the Glazers can just say sorry and just keep doing what they're doing. By that logic. Now, I obviously don't agree with that. The Glazers aren't great, but Gary likes to moan about them every week, and the same way that the referees make issues every week. And when we've tried to do something about it, everyone's flipped the lid for some strange reason. Now, that happened, and almost like clockwork, a reaction occurred. Now, this isn't quite what everyone thinks it is, at least according to what I've read. But basically, a fine from the FA came out to Liverpool for £25,000, and that is as a result of a some sort of failed disciplinary, basically for Liverpool's 2 red cards during the match. That seems like a retaliation and a double down, and it could be. It probably isn't though, because I believe from what I read that is an automatic fine. Basically, anyone that has 2 red cards in a game, I believe, would automatically get fined. I don't think this has been in response to Liverpool's statement. I don't think it's been issued as a result of anything that our players have said on social media after the game. Because there was also rumours that Alexis McAllister might suffer some sort of penalty because of his 12-man comments. And I just think that this whole situation is gonna keep going this way. Like this, I don't see how this would happen. Like I don't see how this would get fixed this quick. Like there's too much going on with it, where the FA's got these automatic processes in place that are triggering us, and we've got, our responses to them, which are then probably subsequently triggering them. And the first one was the disciplinary fine. Now that's 25,000. You could probably appeal that. I don't know if we will appeal it, because we might delay it because we've appealed for Curtis Jones's red card to be overturned. We could do the same with Jota's, but we might just be taking it one at a time. And Curtis Jones's one might actually get overturned, because according to official wording from, I don't know where it's from specifically, but it looks like it's the official rule book. It states that the VAR can check the footage in normal speed and or in slow motion, but in general, slow motion replay should only be used for the facts. For example, position of offence / player, point of contact for physical offences and handball, ball out of play, including goal / no goal. Normal speed should be used for where the intensity of an offence, or to decide if it was a handball offence. So basically saying, how hard the hit was, it should only be checked. It should only be in slow motion for where the contact, not for the intensity. Now the intensity wasn't that bad because it was what's the word? Restraint, because of the ball. So basically, Curtis Jones puts his foot on top of the ball takes a lot of the speed off his foot, but it slides forward a little bit, so it still goes at a little bit of speed. But they had the slow-mo for the whole thing, which I don't think, according to that wording, applies. Because they were trying to dictate the intensity of the injury of the foul, which should only be used for normal speed. So that might get overturned. And by that wording, a lot of reporters think that we might win that appeal. We might also appeal Jota's red card, because the first yellow card wasn't a foul, but I don't know if they can appeal that because the second one was. They might be able to appeal that he shouldn't be given a double yellow, and he might be available for the next game, and we just take the bullet on that one for him being gone for the rest of that game and being down to 9 men. But I mean, there's that many issues that were wrong at this game that there's so many things we're going to have to appeal and discuss and try and sort out. So that's why I can see this taking a while. Redbeard D9, Hooper and English in Abu Dhabi, guests of UAE City owners 48 hours before the game, with City already having lost. But it's all just a coincidence, right? They may overturn Curtis Red to try and shut Liverpool up, in my opinion. Even if they put the audio out, I reckon it will be digitally messed with. Well, yeah, I addressed the rumours. Well, not the rumours, the facts rather, about how the I don't think Hooper was there. Darren English definitely was. I don't think Simon Hooper was in the UAE. I think it was Michael Oliver, Darren English, and some of the other referees, but I think Simon Hooper wasn't there. I don't think he went. But anyway. They may try and scrap both of the red cards to try and shut us up, but I don't think we should take that. I would rather have Curtis and Jota banned for a couple games and make sure we improve the VAR and refereeing system. I just would. I just would. I'm just sick of the entitlement, the untouchability, and the arrogance of referees in the country. So I'd happily take a couple of suspensions for action. The audio being digitally messed with, sadly, we'll never get to prove that because that'll be some backdoor, loophole that we will never get to see unless legal action is sought, and we'd have to do some sort of like check for video tampering, like checking the metadata and things. And I don't think it'll go that far, but at the very least, what they'll have to show is that they didn't follow their own processes, because, as I said before earlier in the stream, the process should be that when it goes to VAR, there's a clarification on what the check is for and what the on-field decision was, and the same at the end of it as well as the VAR assistant decision. So, if somehow Darren England, I've just realised I was saying his name wrong before. If Darren England misunderstood and thought the on-field decision was to give the goal and he was just checking for the offside or not, then he should have clarified that at the end, saying check complete, player onside, goal stands. So that audio, whether or not we get it, whether or not we hear it, will clarify. And even if it is digitally messed with, they still have to, for their own argument, clarify that Darren England is an idiot and didn't follow the process. So, and then subsequently that no one else picked up on that. So at the very least, processes weren't followed. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go full tinfoil hat and say that it's definitely going to be messed with or doctored or adjusted in some way, but it's possible. I'm just not going to say it's going to, the chances of us finding that out would be slim unless we started taking proper legal action. Behi Sports, I think that's how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry if I butchered that. They must overturn Diogo's red. With the goal, I don't believe them when they say the VAR official thought the goal was given. Then if they realise the goal was not given, why did they not correct this? Well, this is what I don't understand, right? This is why I'm curious to hear the audio, because I want the audio from when the ball hit the net, and I want it to last until Spurs are kicked off again. Because, as I said before, you should clarify the beginning of the VAR check and at the end of the VAR check what you were checking for and what the decision is. Subsequently, after that, you should notice that the scoreboard your decision hadn't affected the scoreboard. So you can see the 0-0 in the top corner, or you can see it somewhere. The VAR should see that somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be literally in the top corner like it is for us, but you should see the score somewhere. Not only that, if you don't somehow see that, you should be able to see the Spurs are lining up for a free kick and question it. And again, as I mentioned before, there's rumours think that Simon Hooper was being told that something had made a decision, but as he went to put the whistle to his mouth, Spurs had kicked off, which for some reason stops the ability for play to be stopped and for the decision to be readjusted and amended. Don't know why, because in other countries, I think there was a game in Holland, in Austria or in Norway, which this basically happened, this exact same situation happened. It wasn't, a goal was scored or a goal was not scored. It wasn't picked up by VAR. properly. Match continued, but they brought it back and readdressed it after the fact. I don't know why we can't do that, because that is the whole point of VAR. Like I said this before, VAR's failed. Even if it failed in the first instance, where on this occasion Darren England didn't give the first goal, the Diaz goal. Even if he'd have gone back and amended that later on, let's say at half time, for example, or something, some other time during the match, to me, that's still VAR working. Like, yeah, you failed the initial thing, but you haven't actually failed, because you still got the right decision at the end of it. It just wasn't in the right. It wasn't in the most effective way. So I don't know how that excuse stands, really. Like, it's at the very least negligence and incompetence. So it's one of them. My bad. I thought Hooper was there. No, I don't think Simon Hooper went. It was Michael Oliver, Darren England, and I think there was a couple of others, but I don't think Simon Hooper was there, to my knowledge, anyway. If a player tries to influence the ref to give the opposition player a card, it's a bookable offence, but I guess that rule went out the window on Saturday for the Spurs player. I mean, that one, I've had an issue with that one all season, because we got that from McAllister against Chelsea. And my whole issue with it at first was, if you're going to do that, that's fine. You could, do it. But at least take a look at what caused the foul in the first place. And it seemingly wasn't being. And not only that, they've started not bothering doing that anymore. They've just picked and choose whenever. And if it's an issue with, if it's whenever the ref sees it, the rule's pointless. Because players will just do that all the time. But they'll just do it out of the ref's vision. I don't know why they do it, because ultimately you are trying to get the ref to give him a yellow card. But, I mean, that player, I think it was Udogi. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Udogi. He was on a yellow card then. If he gestured, he should have been sent off in theory. But I guess they don't want to give a card for that because he was on a yellow card, maybe. I don't know. One thing while I'm talking about him, though, is he's had so much racial abuse since then because of the first Jota incident where he tripped himself up and Jota got the yellow for it. Now, I don't like that kind of play from a player. I think it's scummy. But at no point do you ever put racist abuse as a result, as an answer to that. So, if anyone is giving him, racist abuse or racial abuse, sort yourself out, man. You are not a fan of this club. The history and culture in this club is against your own views, and you are not a fan, and we will disown you. Absolutely. I hope you get found out. I hope you get put in prison. And I hope you get lifetime ban. So, yeah. What else would I want to say? So, I want to go back to Gary's point about how he seemingly flip-flopped and apologies were now okay. That's fine. I don't mind an apology, but you have to show improvements. I think we've got 6 or 7 apologies this calendar year alone. It might be more, to be honest with you. So I don't understand how a sorry is still good enough when they make these decisions all the time. They make these mistakes all the time, even. It's just ridiculous. Why are we just... He said the words, sorry is being undervalued. And it's actually not. The PGMOL are overvaluing the word sorry. They think that they can get away with anything because they say sorry at the end of it. And it's not. It's so crap. Any idea why the Prem refused the VAR, the FIFA VAR technology? I'm guessing you mean the automatic offside. Which, if you do mean that, my guess is because the Premier League is governed by the FA, and the FA also governed the PGMOL. So I imagine it was kind of a jobs for the boys kind of situation where we didn't want to take jobs away from the referees. There may have also been a vote for Premier League clubs to implement that, and I feel like if there was, they didn't agree to it because I saw that as a rumour as well. I don't have the actual answer, but they're the two things I've seen. if there wasn't a vote at which the Premier League clubs refused, then it's to do with the fact that the FA don't want to take jobs away from the PGMOL. But I think it should be in place. We saw at the World Cup, and I don't think it ever caught any errors once. So it's, from what I've seen, it's 100% success rate. And I think at that point, it's not a subjective or contentious thing. It's an automatic thing. Now, obviously, some people with tinfoil hats will still say it can be exploited and manipulated and be made to be biased. But I don't think it can. It's definitely less so than a human being, anyway. So I'm all for it, to be honest, if it gets the correct decision. The thing is, the most reliable technology we've had, refereeing technology we've had, is the Hawkeye system. Now, it's had an issue once before where it has ended up getting someone relegated, but I think that's its biggest plunder, and that was like 4 or 5 years ago now, maybe. And it's been improved. The sensors in the cameras have been improved. The sensors in the stadiums have been improved. So it's not made any error since, to my knowledge. Now, feel free to correct me on that, but that's just that's what I know. One thing I want to readdress as well about the PGMOL is I really, really dislike how they're a self-governing body. I don't know in what universe a self-governing body is a great idea, unless it's some sort of automatic governing body, but that's never going to happen, and that's still also very dangerous. If you have a firm that is in charge of something, and he gets something wrong, and you complain to that something, and that something goes, don't worry, okay, we'll look into it, we'll check what happened. They look into it, they go away, they do an investigation, they come back and they go, oh yeah, we checked that. We don't think we made any issue because we're the ones that did it in the first place. How is that fair? How is that good? It should be an independent body that goes and investigates it afterwards. You know, some completely unrelated firm or company or organization that comes in, gets presented with all the data, and does their own internal investigation. That's what should happen. Like, ultimately, even if they do investigate themselves and they find something, they decide their own punishment, which can just be like an apology. And again, not good enough. So I'm trying to keep an eye on Twitter because Monday Night Football is on and I want to see what comes out. So it looks like Frank Lampard is on Monday Night Football and he's come out with, I feel sorry for Curtis Jones. There wasn't huge intent, but I think it was the correct decision. Why, though? It's like, I'm less passionate about these because these are the subjective calls. I feel like if it was just these two decisions, I could live with. But I still don't think it was the correct decision. I think the intent needs to come into it. Football's a contact sport. People are gonna get hurt every now and then. Accidents will happen. You can see there's no intent in Curtis Jones' face. He literally stops immediately afterwards, apologizes, holds his hands up, tries to help Basuma up, I think it is. And you can see what caused the issue. You can see in slow motion his foot rolls off the top of the ball and it collides with the player accidentally. It actually changes the direction of his foot as well. That should have just been a yellow. But because it went to VAR and they wanted it overturned and moved to a red, that's to me when VAR was able to do that properly, but not, check our goal. Nice one, lads. Talk about, bias much. All their decisions were correct, allegedly, but ours, no. Jamie Carragher, also on Monday Night Football, said, I think it's unbelievable that all the parties involved have not released the audio. It looks like Jamie Carragher and Frank Lampard both agree that the state of the disallowed goal is ridiculous. So, something I wanted to address as well is a lot of rival fans seem to want to think that our statements or fans are basically or practically asking for a replay to be awarded to us. And whilst I think that would actually be fair, that's not what I'm actually asking for. At least me, anyway. I think it'd be fair if a replay was issued, but I'm absolutely fine and I'm not passionate enough to fight for that if it means real change happens. So I'm happy to scrap a replay if it means that we actually get capable, competent staff in for match officials. And none of this like, oh well, in the Champions League final you got a dodgy handball. That was right at the start, lads. If you want to go back and look at the game, you have another 90 odd minutes or 80 odd minutes to go and fix that, and you didn't. So if you want to start going back and replaying all sorts of games under the sun, whatever, I'm happy to let this one lie and give you the 3 points. But let's just talk about how it would actually be a fair possibility if we got a replay. I heard some say that the match officials don't get paid enough, that they're on over 100k a year plus 1,500 per match, but some trying to use another soft excuse. I mean, I don't know what match officials get paid, but if that's accurate, then it's a joke. They get taken off for a couple of weeks, and they're absolutely fine. Sometimes it's with pay, sometimes it's without pay, from what I've seen. Like, if that's true, that 1,500 per match, that's not far from what I make a month. And you get one every week. So, just a bit of context into the divide there between my job bracket and their job bracket. Udogi's foul on Gakpo is also dangerous. Not intentional, but dangerous. Same as Kers. If you pause the foul on contact, it also looks very dangerous. I mean, his is the same sort of scenario, in my opinion. But again, I don't think that's a red card. It was dangerous on Gakpo, absolutely. It probably caused the injury for him, but it wasn't a red card. He makes a play in the box and he just grazes it with his studs, I think. If he doesn't, it's even worse. But I don't like. It's not a red card. It should have been a yellow card. That's it. The same with Curtis's one. You can see their intention. You can see they're not trying to. Udogi's not trying to collapse his weight on top of Gakpo's foot. You can see that's not the intention. Yellow card, that's it. And it was given a yellow card. So, I don't know what the contentious opinion about that is, but I was very disappointed with Ange's comments on this issue. I said this in our group chat, right? Ange's been really likeable so far. I've been appreciating him this season. And he disappointed me with this because he changed his opinion. A couple of weeks ago, he was complaining about the handball rule, and now he's fine with errors being a part of the game. Like, the thing is, I know why he's doing it, because if he disagrees with that opinion, it discredits his win today, Saturday. But you've already won the 3 points. You have won the game. Like, they are not going to overturn the result of the game. At least try and look decent. At least try and look like you've got some morals. Like, it just baffles me. Like, you had nothing to lose there. You could have just gained more respect, but instead you decided to double down because of reasons. And do you know what? This is what annoys me the most, is everyone's now against us again because we've said we'll push the issue. We'll test the resolve of the PGMOL. And everyone's just like, oh, just get on with it. Everyone suffered. It's like, yeah, but we're trying to make everyone not suffer in the future. I don't understand why people just want to get on with it. Like, your club will suffer again and again and again. And you're just fine with that because you want to moan at Liverpool for complaining about it. Whatever, sound. But when we fix the issue, don't come, don't be, celebrating it. Look at it with disgust because Liverpool are the ones that push for it. What do you think about Neville backtracking, saying he didn't agree with Liverpool putting out a statement? Obviously, someone has had a word in his ear. Well, there was I wish I'd have saved the tweet because there was someone on Twitter who openly confirmed that basically he worked for one of the sort of studios or whatever. It's not Sky necessarily, but some of the studios, and they get told to basically suppress their opinion and to not feed into all this and to, keep it to themselves. And if they can do that, then they can absolutely tell you to reel it in if you're one of the main voices. For Gary Neville to be uttering the words "oh no" consistently during the PGMOL statement being released to basically being like, "oh no, sorry's enough," is one of the biggest flip flops in 24 hours I've ever seen. And I don't know how you can. I don't know how you could be fine with that. It definitely looks like you can get that Sky have gone. By the way, you might want to ease up on your opinion there, which is why I hope Jamie Carragher doesn't. Which is why I'm trying to keep an eye on like Twitter and stuff because I want to see if he says anything about it. But I he had my respect, Gary, because he seems to always be on the fighting side of the right thing. He seems to be always on the right side of the argument. But this one, he was, and then he just U-turned for no real reason. And it discredits his own opinions for stuff. Because as I said earlier in the stream, if the Glazers turned around and said sorry tomorrow, would he forgive them? Nah. He'd be asking for them to get out. The same was basically what we're doing for the PGMOL, so he disappointed me massively. Same with Ange. On the wages, I read that a few weeks ago. It's official. I mean, that's ridiculous then. 100k a year plus 1500 per match. And so I'm guessing then when they get suspended, they still get their 100k a year. So they still get their normal wage, but they just don't get that 1500 per match thing. Is what I would guess. Because you never seem to have a referee that really has an issue with being suspended, because they'll just go and make the same mistake again when they come back in a couple of weeks. Definitely, that's the inconsistency I'm talking about with the Udoka and Curtis foul. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were both yellow cards. That was it. That's it. Enough said. Udoka's foul was obviously worse. Cody was out for weeks. Neither his or Curtis' tackle was intentional. The still pick made it look like Curtis was almost broken Udoka's ankle, but he was able to play on. I think it was Basuma that Curtis Jones had fouled. They were both. I don't think one was necessarily worse than the other. Both of them were accidents. I mean, if you want to talk about damage, then Curtis Jones' one probably was more damaging, but it was still an equal action. Like, it was still an equal accident. Like, the ball slides his foot forward because that's the way it's traveling. That's football. Physics exists in football. Goldbridge says this all the time, and you know what? I didn't think it would be a United fan that's had the most common sense I've seen, from rival fans talking about this situation. He's the only one left that I see really that still backs Liverpool's like challenging of the PGMOL, and still backs that the neither of the red cards should have really been given. And it's because they're both accidents in a contact sport. Curtis Jones has the ball roll his foot forward. Udogi's trailing leg traps Gakpo's foot as he's cutting in. Gakpo doesn't run there intentionally. Udogi doesn't purposely put his foot on top of Gakpo's. Just to give them both a yellow card and tell them to be careful and move on. If they do it again, give them another yellow, then they get a justified red. It's confusing. It's confusing how it just all seemed to go against us that night. To the point where it does feel like match fixing, but I don't want to start wrapping up tinfoil around my head. Liverpool want a comprehensive procedural review into Saturday night's failings rather than the scapegoating of any single human. I mean, that's from Melissa Reddy of Sky, and absolutely correct. Like, how did the process not get followed? Don't just blame the significant human error thing. Like, there's multiple referees there that know the rules, that know that the process, that know or should know at the very least, and none of them picked up on it. Sure, the on-field ref made the decision based on the linesman, and the linesman made a decision based on his eyesight. But why did they both not clarify what the check was for to the VAR assistant? Why did the VAR assistant, AVAR guy not step in and say, you realise what that check's for, right? And why did the why did the VAR referee then not clarify his decision before and after the check? Yes, you're right. I'm still furious and not thinking straight at the moment. Goldbridge is a very fair and honest dude. I mean, he's got some opinions where I disagree with, but I feel like you're never gonna get people that share the same opinion as you. There's always gonna be someone that like disappoints you. Um, well, not disappointed. That's unfair. That disagrees with you on something, but might agree with you on a lot of things. Um, Goldbridge with this situation is one that I've respected because he's suffered this sort of thing many times before. And I mean, as you can probably expect, a lot of clubs don't care unless it happens to them. And I'm not ashamed to say that is basically what's happened with me right now. Like, we absolutely should have stepped forward fair, like beforehand and backed some of these decisions. But it's took this level of incompetence for us to get our shit together. So let's not just forget about it, and let's not like start arguments with rival fans just because they're fuming that their club didn't do it earlier. Um, so let's have a look if anything has happened. Apparently, this is coming in from the Sky Sports stuff that before. Sky have asked for the audio over, quote unquote, over and over today, and apparently have been unsuccessful. They've then put a graphic up of the Luis Diaz disallowed goals, but Sky Sports understandings of events. Given offside on field, VAR checked for offside and drew 2D line. Lines confirmed onside, but VAR only tells on-field officials check complete. The play restarted with 2 seconds of check complete. The play restarted within 2 seconds of check complete. VAR/AVAR realised error had been made, but believed that the VAR protocol within the laws of the game would not permit stopping the game and decided intervention was not possible at this stage. Thus, the on-field decisions were not made aware the decision was wrong until half-time. So why is that then not subsequently told to the team? Because we didn't, like, Liverpool didn't know about that until after the game. And why is the laws of the game that restrictive about when VAR can come in, when they're supposed to be able to make sure you get the right decisions? If they can take 5 minutes to decide whether or not Calvert-Lewin is onside for the Everton goal, why can't they take, some of that time after the decision? Why does it have to be as and when the action is there? It's just it's backwards. It's there's no common sense applied to this, and that's what's scary. These should all be obvious things where VAR is given the power at any point to make sure the right decision is implemented. And the thing is, you look at that and you go, well, what's the perfect refereeing solution? And I've said, it's the NFL, like, the NFL rules are so watertight that you barely get anything subjective. Maybe roughing the passer is the most subjective one, but everything else is like a defined law. And then secondly, once they make a decision, they broadcast it to the whole stadium. If you don't like that, you can challenge it. And that can still happen. Now, we can implement that challenge system, but if a ref makes a decision or VAR makes a decision, you can challenge it, and if you get it wrong, you lose a sub. I don't know why that can't be put in. Apparently Carragher is saying straight up that he doesn't believe them and is demanding for the audio to be released. He's just been cut off because he was saying the longer this goes on, the more I think they're trying to put a story together. I think the difference. I'm just reading through some stuff now just to make sure. How long does it take to edit the audio? I mean, I don't want to. The whole editing the audio thing, I'm not denying it can't happen, but we're just never going to find out if they have edited it unless we seek legal action and all evidence has to be submitted to court, and we can then check like metadata on things. That's the only way we might find out. Unless someone leaks it or something, but I doubt it because The PGMOL, we know for a fact, is jobs for the boys. I mean, who was it? One of the referees recently, not too long ago, basically said he didn't want to send his mate to the monitor to check for a penalty because he'd had a hard day. So they're never gonna out themselves. It'd have to be someone, like, it'd have to be a mole. The difference this time is there were so many bad decisions against one side in one game, which makes it even worse. That's why it's been spoken about so much. That's what I can't believe. Every single decision that was made was against us. And to be honest, if you're gonna match fix, that's the way to do it, because especially against Liverpool, we're such a hated club that, like, anything we do, people are just gonna hate. And that's what's happened. We've been the one club that have come out and said we'll challenge this. And that's when our sympathy ran out. Everyone's sympathy ran out for us at that point. At least Gakpo will only miss 2 games. Dodges a huge injury. Yeah, I mean, I'm relieved, to be honest. Like, it's never a good thing to get an injury, but at the time when he scored, he went down immediately and couldn't put any pressure on it or any weight on it. I know he started moving about a little bit easier afterwards, but I don't, like, it looked bad at first, so I'm glad it's only like a minor injury, like it's not too long. I believe he's meant to be back for the Everton game later this month. Fucking fly. Sorry. He got awarded a penalty after the final whistle. I can't remember the match. I said this before in our group chat. If you can't, how can you not go back during the game to award the goal when you can finish the game or finish the match and award a winning penalty? I think that was against Brighton. I think that was United against Brighton at home. Like, how can the final whistle go and you can award something, but the game is still being played and you can't award something? I don't understand. Cody will be out for longer. Liverpool always say a few weeks, but then we don't know. But then we know it usually ends up being longer. Yeah, you're right, to be fair. But I think there's some players that are a bit more resilient that won't. Like, Gakpo is one of those that's going to have to fight for his place in the team. And he was starting to fight his way into form. So he'll probably want to be back as soon as possible. Now, that could still be out of his control. But I think he'll try and be back for as soon as he can. And yeah, I just hope that something comes from this. Because it needs to. But yeah. So that's probably going to end the stream, because we've got everything out the way that we didn't want to talk about. Like, let me just double check, make sure I have. We don't want to replay. Stop the point scoring. We'll take no replay to be the example to set the change. Yep. Errors are fine, but trends aren't. Basically just saying that, you can make an error, but these aren't errors. These are just trends that happen. There's a controversy every week. There's never any improvements, no repercussions. Yeah, I think I got it. And also, don't be racist. I feel like that's a straightforward one. Don't be racist. Don't hate on, don't give anybody, even if it's a referee, don't give them any abuse. You can question their skills as a referee, because, believe it or not, you don't have the respect you think you do, because you've not done anything to earn that respect. But don't start going around doing dodgy name calling and being racist or, anything along those lines, being discriminatory or anything like that in any degree. So, yeah, be better. We'll see what happens. Hopefully the audio gets released, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, this is going to wrap the stream up. I'm going to go and have some food and probably watch the end of the Chelsea-Fulham game. So, if you enjoyed the stream, make sure you subscribe and actually first like. If you're watching this back on replay, comment down below. Let me know what you think of what's happened so far. You're happy with Liverpool's stance on the whole situation? What do you think of the automatic fine? Do you reckon we'll appeal that, because we're going to appeal Curtis Jones' red card? Let us know in the comments down below. And as always, if you don't mind subscribing, we've got plenty of videos on the way for you guys. And plenty more live streams as well. Maybe some more live discussions with myself and the Cop Goth, James himself. So make sure you do that, and we'll see you soon. In a bit, lads.